When a prominent actor speaks candidly about their experiences and opinions, especially on topics as storied and culturally significant as opera and ballet, the ripples of their words can extend far beyond the initial comment. Timothée Chalamet, an actor whose career has been characterized by a blend of daring artistic choices and an innate sense of youthful charisma, recently found himself at the center of a lively discussion within Hollywood and the wider arts community. His remarks regarding his personal detachment from opera and ballet, though offhand, sparked a nuanced conversation about art, taste, celebrity influence, and the intersection between traditional performance arts and contemporary culture. These conversations, in turn, reveal as much about the shifting attitudes of younger generations toward the classical arts as they do about the expectations placed upon public figures to serve as both cultural ambassadors and role models. Chalamet's comments, initially perceived by some as dismissive or flippant, can be interpreted in multiple ways. On one level, they reflect a candid personal viewpoint, an acknowledgement that not everyone, regardless of their artistic training or cultural exposure, finds the same resonance in every art form. Opera, with its grandiose performances, intricate musical structures, and historical weight, often commands a certain reverence. Ballet, with its rigorous physical discipline and centuries-old codified techniques, carries a similarly imposing cultural cachet. To an actor like Chalamet, who has been immersed primarily in cinematic storytelling and contemporary theater, these forms may represent both admiration and intimidation, appreciation and distance. Recognizing this duality allows one to interpret his comments not merely as a critique of the art forms themselves, but as a reflection on personal engagement with culture, a distinction that is often lost in the rapid cycle of media headlines and social media reactions. Hollywood insiders, who are accustomed to navigating the delicate balance between personal expression and public expectation, responded with a range of perspectives. Some expressed understanding, noting that young actors today are navigating a media environment radically different from that of previous generations. They are constantly scrutinized for both what they say and what they enjoy, and the expectation that one must conform to traditional cultural norms can feel constraining. In this context, Chalamet's honesty resonates with a broader conversation about authenticity in celebrity culture. Audiences today often admire transparency and relatability over strict adherence to established cultural hierarchies. Insiders also highlighted that reactions to such comments reveal more about the observer than the speaker, reflecting individual biases about what is considered appropriate appreciation for the arts. Yet not all reactions were measured. Some commentators, particularly those with deep personal or professional ties to opera and ballet, expressed disappointment, interpreting Chalamet's words as a slight against art forms that have historically demanded immense dedication, discipline, and reverence. For these observers, opera and ballet are not mere entertainment, they are embodiments of centuries of human creativity and cultural preservation. The perceived casual dismissal, therefore, could feel jarring, as if the value of these traditions were being questioned by one of the most visible young actors in contemporary cinema. The tension lies in the gap between lived experience and public perception. What Chalamet may have intended as personal preference was, in the eyes of some insiders, interpreted as critique. This dynamic illustrates a broader cultural phenomenon wherein the public and private spheres of celebrities are constantly intertwined, and even personal opinions can be amplified into symbolic statements about broader societal values. Delving further, it becomes evident that Chalamet's commentary intersects with issues of accessibility and generational shifts in the consumption of the arts. Opera and ballet, while celebrated for their technical mastery and emotional depth, are sometimes perceived as exclusive or elitist. Ticket prices, traditional venues, and the cultural literacy required to fully appreciate these forms can present barriers, particularly for younger audiences. Chalamet, like many of his peers, represents a generation for whom digital media, streaming platforms, and cross-genre experimentation dominate cultural consumption. In this environment, classical art forms must compete with a diverse array of entertainment options, ranging from indie cinema and digital storytelling to immersive experiences and global pop culture phenomena. His comments can therefore be seen as emblematic of a broader challenge faced by classical arts in remaining relevant and engaging to contemporary audiences. From an analytical perspective, the discourse surrounding Chalamet's remarks underscores the evolving role of celebrity influence. In past eras, actors and public figures were often expected to maintain a polished, almost neutral public persona, avoiding any statements that might alienate certain audiences. Today, authenticity and personal voice are highly prized, yet they carry the risk of public scrutiny. Chalamet, who has cultivated a reputation for thoughtful, sometimes introspective interviews, navigates a space where candor is both valued and critiqued. The intensity of the reactions, ranging from amusement to indignation, highlights the paradoxical expectations placed upon contemporary stars, to be relatable and genuine, yet simultaneously informed and culturally literate in ways that satisfy a broad, diverse audience. Insiders also pointed out that the discourse surrounding Chalamet's comments illuminates an important aspect of Hollywood culture: the persistent negotiation between tradition and innovation. Opera and ballet, while deeply rooted in history, are not static. Modern productions increasingly experiment with staging, narrative, and thematic content to appeal to wider audiences and to challenge conventional norms. Similarly, actors like Chalamet engage in work that often pushes the boundaries of storytelling, whether through avant-garde film projects, experimental theater, or socially conscious narratives. The dialogue between a young actor's personal engagement and established art forms reflects a larger cultural negotiation, one in which generational perspectives, artistic evolution, and public discourse intersect. In considering the broader implications, it is useful to reflect on how celebrity commentary can influence public perceptions of art. Chalamet's remarks, amplified by social media and journalistic coverage, have the potential to spark curiosity among audiences who may not otherwise engage with opera or ballet. They can also stimulate dialogue about why certain art forms resonate differently with individuals, inviting reflection on personal taste, exposure, and cultural context. Importantly, the conversation is not about diminishing the value of opera or ballet. Rather, it opens space for nuanced discussions about accessibility, relevance, and how individuals relate to diverse artistic experiences. In this way, even a seemingly casual comment can serve as a catalyst for deeper cultural engagement and understanding. The discussion also raises questions about the intersection of celebrity, education, and cultural capital. Chalamet, like many actors of his generation, received extensive training in dramatic arts and has engaged with diverse cultural experiences. Yet, his personal preferences, which may lean toward cinema, contemporary performance, and narrative-driven art, demonstrate that exposure does not necessitate uniform appreciation. The varied responses from Hollywood insiders highlight the spectrum of expectations for public figures. Some prioritize a demonstration of respect and familiarity with classical traditions, while others prioritize authenticity and the articulation of personal taste. The tension between these expectations is emblematic of a broader societal negotiation over the roles of education, experience, and personal expression in shaping cultural discourse. Moreover, the incident underscores the way social media and digital platforms magnify conversations about art and celebrity. A statement that might once have circulated only in print interviews now reaches millions instantaneously, subject to commentary, interpretation, and critique from a vast, diverse audience. This amplification can heighten emotional reactions, create viral narratives, and influence both public perception and the individual's own approach to communication. For Chalamet, the interplay between candid self-expression and public reception exemplifies the complexities of modern celebrity. Every comment carries weight, and every personal opinion becomes fodder for collective interpretation. Beyond the immediate controversy, Chalamet's remarks serve as a lens through which to examine broader questions about the cultural ecosystem. Opera and ballet, while revered, are not monolithic, and their evolution depends on both preservation and reinvention. The reactions from insiders underscore the passion and dedication that these art forms inspire, reflecting a commitment to tradition even as the landscape of cultural consumption changes. At the same time, the conversation highlights the necessity for inclusivity and dialogue. Acknowledging that individuals may relate differently to art forms is not a dismissal of their value, but an invitation to consider how accessibility, representation, and innovation shape engagement. The interplay of personal expression, cultural expectation, and generational perspective also reveals the subtle dynamics of influence within Hollywood. Actors, producers, directors, and other industry professionals constantly negotiate these dynamics, balancing personal taste with public persona, artistic ambition with audience expectation, and innovation with reverence for tradition. Chalamet's comments, though focused on his personal experience, illuminate the intricate web of relationships and expectations that define contemporary celebrity culture. Hollywood insiders recognize that these discussions are not solely about opera or ballet, they are about the ongoing negotiation of identity, taste, and influence in a highly visible industry. Critically, the conversation invites reflection on how society values different forms of artistic engagement. In an era marked by diversification of media, democratization of cultural access, and the proliferation of entertainment choices, traditional forms like opera and ballet must find new ways to resonate with audiences whose cultural literacy, aesthetic preferences, and modes of engagement differ significantly from those of previous generations. Chalamet's perspective, far from being a rejection, may represent an honest articulation of generational sensibilities, a reminder that art must be experienced on its own terms, and that meaningful engagement does not require uniform appreciation. Finally, the dialogue surrounding Chalamet's remarks is instructive in highlighting the balance between critique and celebration. Hollywood insiders, while analyzing and reacting to his statements, also underscore the enduring vibrancy and relevance of opera and ballet. The discussion reflects a shared understanding that cultural conversation, whether sparked by celebrity commentary, academic discourse, or audience engagement, is essential for sustaining and evolving artistic traditions. In this sense, Chalamet's candid reflections, rather than undermining these art forms, contribute to a broader dialogue that situates them within contemporary cultural life, emphasizing both their historical significance and their potential for ongoing relevance. In conclusion, the incident surrounding Timothée Chalamet's comments on opera and ballet is emblematic of larger trends in cultural engagement, celebrity influence, and generational perspective. It illustrates the ways in which public figures navigate personal expression and public expectation, the challenges classical arts face in reaching new audiences, and the rich potential for dialogue that arises from candid discourse. While opinions vary, the conversation ultimately reinforces the idea that engagement with art is deeply personal, generationally informed, and socially mediated, and that even seemingly casual remarks can catalyze thoughtful reflection on the value, accessibility, and future of cultural traditions. It is a reminder that the arts, whether performed on stage or discussed in interviews, remain dynamic, evolving, and deeply intertwined with the fabric of contemporary life, enriched by both reverence and fresh perspective.